Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest to reintroduce to you now. Dr. Stephanie Rimka is a returning guest on our show. Be sure to check out her first appearance on episode 231 of Boundless Body Radio. Dr. Stephanie Rimka is a pioneering clinician and author who blends neuroscience, trauma healing, and feminine embodiment into a powerful new model for human vitality. For more than 25 years, she has helped people regulate their nervous systems, balance hormones, restore mitochondrial energy, and reconnect to the truth of who they are. Her latest book, Receive, The Dance of the Feminine Power, pulls back the curtain on the missing link in modern wellness, the biology of softness, safety, pleasure, and self-trust. After losing her partner and navigating her own rebirth, Dr. Rimka discovered that healing isn't about a battle of willpower. It's the art of receiving what the body was designed to give. Today, she teaches audiences how to move from chronic stress to deep regulation, from burnout to radiance, and from survival mode into a life led by intuition, connection, and nervous system intelligence. Her work bridges science and soul, offering a grounded yet deeply transformative path for anyone ready to heal from the inside out. You can find her on social media and on her website at www.drrimka.com. Dr. Stephanie Rimka, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you back to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you, Casey. I'm so excited to be here. And just, I don't know if viewers are listening or watching, but you are like glowing. So you're a radiant being yourself. So it's an honor to be here with you.
Well, it's an honor to host you. You used exactly the same word that I was going to describe you, glowing and radiant. Looks like you've been getting plenty of sun down in Florida. We just kind of connected off air and talked about how everything is so lively and vibrant down there. And I just told you that the United States American hockey team that just won gold medal in the Olympics flew down from Italy to spend time in Miami so they could party and celebrate an amazing, epic gold medal right in your backyard. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't blame them. I'm 2 hours from Miami, and the energy here is incredible. There's a reason Florida is getting another surge, and I don't know if all the Floridians are happy we're all coming, but we're coming because it is better down here. I just got to tell the truth.
Sunshine sports. You describe everybody's golfing and playing pickleball and all that stuff. It sounds like really amazing, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it's funny, we're going to talk about Florida, but what I really have been struck by is community and the importance of community. I underscored it tremendously. I think part of it is my age. So I'm in my 50s now, and the older you get, the easier it is to like, you lose your kids' friends. Like you kind of sometimes for a woman, your social life goes around like the stage you're in. So before you get married, then you have certain friends, then you get married, then you have like married friends. And then when you have a baby and you have kids, now you got the kid date friends and who they went to school with. And you kind of end up being around people sort of by default. Well, he's 20 and he's out of the house. And so like now I'm like, now what? And it's an incredible time of more freedom and options, but I found myself alone a lot more for a number of reasons, and we can get into that when you talked about losing my partner. So isolation became something I experienced and became acutely aware of in a very different way. You can read about it in papers. I read about it. I studied it, that isolation and loneliness is more damaging and more inflammatory to the human body than smoking every day, than drinking every day. It is worse for longevity to be alone than drinking and smoking every single day. That's a fact. This is a biological marker that we can't underscore. Isolation is the most damaging longevity marker. So it is the most important. And I teach these concepts, and yet everybody wants to talk about peptides and exosomes and stem cells and all this other stuff. We mention isolation and community, but we go back to selling you an exosome or a peptide or regenerative medicine and $100,000 machine for your office. Instead of, can we talk about connection again? Can we talk about community? And what I've seen here in Florida has blown my mind at 60, 70, 80-year-olds out here living their best damn lives, but they always travel in packs. I don't see anybody alone and isolated. And it's been really remarkable. And I think it's one of the strongest cures we have that we're not using, and that's connection with each other through community.
Wow, I love that. For you personally, where have you found your community while you've been there in Florida?
I started playing tennis. And
All
now I know
right.
why they do it, And so I had dinner, and so the people I'm hanging out with are like 60, 70, and 85 years old. I'm not kidding. And I'm talking with them, and this couple, they've been married, I think 64 years. Can you imagine? Right. So they're in
Wow.
their, they married at 17 and 18 or something like that. And so it's like right? I mean, 16 months is a long time nowadays, right? Or whatever. So 60 some years. So what they said, and I said, well, I'm looking for a house and I'm looking, and they're like, well, where are you going? I said, well, somewhere between Vero Beach and Miami. It's a lot of different neighborhoods, a lot of things to consider. I go, I've never had to be concerned about HOAs, much less country club fees. But it's like a whole thing here. Like you can't just look for a house because most of them are attached to country clubs, and there's these other fees you have to pay before you can even buy a house. And it sounded crazy to me until this lady said something, because they all lived in a country club. I was in their country club. And she's like, wow. She goes, I know. She goes, the prices can be a little bit crazy. I understand that. She goes, but you know what you get with for it? I said, what? She goes, instant community and friends. She goes, I have so many friends and we're always busy. There's always something to do. You're never going to be alone. And if somebody is single or something happens to their husband or their wife, that we are not going to stand for that. We will never let them be alone to wither away in their house. So because we're busy every day. They play tennis every day, pickleball every day, golf every day. There's book clubs, wine clubs, shopping tours. She started rattling things off. She was, what? She was, I can't even imagine not having. I mean, this is what you get. And it suddenly made something that sounded kind of bougie and stupid make perfect sense. Because here
Wow.
in America, we don't have it set up the way European countries and many other places do, where the geography and the city and the town is set around a central station and people are walking. In Europe, they don't even have big refrigerators. They have to leave every day to get fresh food. So they're always out mingling. And here in Florida, I've seen it for the first time where I'm seeing all the ages. I'm like, there's infants and 90-year-olds all at the same table, which is exactly what I just saw in Spain. And I noticed it there too. I'm like, look, you get to see all the ages and all the generations together, at midnight in Spain on the street eating and playing. It's fascinating. I'm like, do they ever sleep? What's happening? But that's what I'm seeing in Florida, and I'm really liking it. So tennis is something I'm literally played 6 times. I don't know what I'm doing. They're teaching me, and I'm doing it so I can meet new people.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing and worth it for sure to be
Yeah.
down there. So I'm so glad you found that community. It's so funny. I'm in the outskirts of Salt Lake City in a wonderful neighborhood that's absolutely beautiful. It's got an amazing lake and lots of gathering places, and I see a lot of isolation around me. It's set up to be a community, and yet I don't see a lot of that community. Oftentimes, it's just it does feel a lot more isolated. So what you're describing sounds almost like wistful. You know what I mean? Like it sounds like
I know.
kind of like impossible.
But it's here. And what I found myself is now that I work from home, I have had 6 brick and mortars, and I closed all the brick and mortars and went completely telehealth, I think 6 or 7 years, right before COVID. So
Wow.
it was probably longer now. I was set up, I was positioned well. I had no idea it was coming. So I guess I'm at 7, 8 years. And so I was set up for it. I had no idea the impact of the working from home, the isolation and loneliness. It wasn't so bad when my son was there and I'd be driving him to school. And then even when he drove himself in high school, I still was at his basketball games 3 times a week and his football games. I still had a reason to be leaving the house and doing things. Then I didn't. And then I found myself often in the house for days and not leaving to go anywhere, because now you can even just Instacart the groceries. I'm like, oh, I don't feel like taking a shower, putting on a bra. I don't really feel it. You don't have to. You don't have to actually go out and do anything, you know? So I find here I'm getting to the point I'm working. I'm like, oh no, I gotta leave the house. I gotta get out. I gotta see people. I want to go sit in the, I'm like, why wouldn't I want to go sit right by the water and the boats and hear the live music? I want to do it every night because it's right down the street. It's a completely, and there's always people and there's always aliveness and there's always laughter. And I don't see, that's not how it is in Atlanta either. We're
Interesting.
much more isolated pods, and it takes quite a bit of effort to get together. And friends are like an hour away with the traffic. It's like, oh, well, sure, I love to get together, but on Tuesday between 11 and 1, that's our traffic window. Other than that, you can't do it. Here, it's just a very different thing I'm finding. And so I'm finding myself with desire to get out
That's
again.
awesome.
And it
Wow.
was a very hard last year with the grief. And I got extremely contracted and extremely isolated.
Wow.
And I'm having to like put effort into you need to be around people again. And that probably wouldn't have happened had I been in a community and an environment that would never have allowed such isolation after the loss of a partner. There are
Yeah.
some communities that would never have happened. So the amount of fatigue and pain and physical illness my body went through as it just didn't know where to put love, it didn't know what to do. Um, that would have happened very differently had I not been in a different culture. And American culture is just not set up to know how to handle isolation, grief, trauma. We just don't know what to do with it here.
Sure. Yeah, well, it sounds like you're in the perfect place for it. So I'm so glad that you were
Yeah.
able to find that location and find some community. We're definitely going to check your records to make sure that when you close down your brick and mortar shops, you also didn't invest in Zoom or you didn't get a pet or didn't really foresee the pandemic coming. We're going to have to verify that.
That
Um,
I wish, right? Can you imagine? Gosh.
there's a great video of some comedian, this woman like time travels back like 3 months in the past during the pandemic to kind of like foreshadow some of the things that were happening, and it's pretty funny. But anyway, we won't get too distracted. I want to talk about all the important stuff that created the content for your new book, all the
Mm.
personal things that you had to go through, the things you had to learn. I do want to preface this. It's been several years since we've talked. I do want to talk about your professional career and what made you get into what you do professionally today, and you see people with your telehealth business. Tell us how you got interested in what you do and why your work is so unique now to what most people would think somebody like you would be doing.
So, I got into this. So I specialize in mental health. So I look at the electromagnetic function of what's going on. So I'm looking at structure, function, electricity, magnetism, all of it. And it really just started because I was a little girl that wanted to get her father out of prison. And like, well, and I had a whole, I can fix this. I will fix all of this. I watched my mother struggling, working 3 jobs while my father was in prison, and we were, in Detroit on welfare and food stamps. And I was innately driven to fix the wounded things. I had a bug hospital in the house. And so any dead little creature or wounded creature, I was trying to operate on and trying to help them and save them and do kind of experiments. I don't know how my mother put up with it. And so being poor, you kind of, there's only so many options, like, how do I get out of here? And I was like, well, doctors that seems to be a winning formula in this country. So I'm gonna become a doctor. And it was the right choice, whether I made it for the right reasons, whether it was just from a wounded little girl being like, I'm gonna get us money one day and buy you a house, mommy. That's pretty much what it was. I'm gonna take care of you. Don't worry about it. I got it. Okay. And my dad was in prison. So I was like, if I can make enough money, I can hire a good attorney and I can get him out. That was the plan. Okay. But this is a very young decision, very little girl. So as the years went on, my brothers went on to become drug addicts, alcoholics. They went on into prison as well. So there's a lot of pain and turmoil that my childhood was full of. Our house was firebombed. I was held at gunpoint multiple times. My mother and I had to be homeless, living in our car for weeks on end while because of these things trying to save me from the drug dealers that were after my brother, and watching her hardship, doing everything she could to try and get attorneys to save them. This is the nightmare of drugs, alcoholism, bad choices that good people, good people can make mistakes and end up in a really bad place, prison, and stripped away from families and all of that. So I was trying to save them to save my mother, in essence. Once I was in practice, so while I was in grad school getting my doctorate, my sisters son, my nephew, was diagnosed with autism. Despite my best efforts to teach her not to vaccinate, she had a husband, and there was strain in the marriage around this. So even though they delayed my nephew's schedule, he ended up damaged and autistic. And she came to me and said, "Okay, I messed up. Can you help?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, I'm around all the best people. They're teaching me. Let me reach out to the network." So through that, even though I was focused on alcoholism, drug addiction, and interested in like bipolar and suicidal ideation, anxiety and attention deficit, I got pulled into the world of autism. And I was trained by many mentors to help that were working on my nephew. And as I went down the path, and it was schizophrenia, bipolar, it's all the same. And so that's what I ended up doing. And my first job out of college before I went to grad school was at a mental health hospital working with schizophrenics. So I was drawn to that group and that community, like the throwaways of medicine. And I said, this cannot be the way this is done. I just innately, intuitively know everything can be reversed, everything can be cured, everything can be healed. You can't just throw drugs at it, numb them out, and turn them into zombies and throw them away. This is disgusting. And those are the people I wanted. You want to throw them away? Not over my dead body, not while I'm still breathing. So that's the group I wanted. Okay. So in that process, then all of a sudden now we have autism. And then I spent the next 30 years, this is all I do. So autism recovery, attention deficit, dyslexia, anything that would lead a child, because this is what led my brothers to where they were, right? Dyslexia, obsessive compulsive disorder. They were trying to regulate through self-medicating through these harmful substances because the schools and the pediatricians and the psychologists didn't even know what these things were, couldn't identify it properly, and certainly didn't know how to correct it, much less treat it safely. So that's what I started diving into, all the neuroscience around how to reverse ADHD, anxiety, dyslexia, obsessive compulsive disorder, schizophrenia, bipolar. I realized trying to help the guys in prison, trying to help them once they were there was very hard. And I had a much better chance of trying to not let the 7-year-old become a drug addict, not let the 15-year-old never cut themselves, or if they are, we can stop that dissociative behavior, get them back embodied, and get them loving themselves in their life again. So that's what I've done. And it's by working with that community for 30 years, I've seen what special needs, whatever form you want to call it, does to the parents and the women, the mothers, the level of self-sacrifice and even at many times martyrdom that overtakes them, leaves them destroyed physically, emotionally, spiritually. And it was through my work with them saying, "Mom, okay, I get it. He's got autism, but we need to put a oxygen mask on you. You're drowning. This is not okay. And he's feeling everything you're going through. Like, we got to stop and help you." And I'll tell you, every time I said that, every husband in the room either did or almost started crying, practically high-fived or hugged me and said, "I've been saying the same thing. Please, Dr. Rimka, whatever she needs. I've been trying to convince her. I love her and she's killing herself." And they were like, pretty much because they're lonely, they miss their wife. They madly in love with this woman, but she replaced her identity so fully as a woman, as a sexual being, as his wife, as his lover, for the mother of the sick child. And I get it's coming from their guilt and all in the shame and things. So I would come in the picture and be working with them and saying, "We can't, like, you matter and let's deal with this." And always supported by incredible men holding such incredible masculine space. So through that process, as I was teaching them and coaching them and making courses for them, I realized how much I was like them. I'm like, oh boy, I'm talking to myself a lot here, you know. And when I was 45, is when it hit me like, shit, I'm closer to 50 than not. And I watched how scary that was for me. I watched myself talk about what turning 50, like, I'm old, I'm done, no one's going to want me. like my irrelevance. I'm getting, like it's all about to be over. Like it was really interesting. And when I watched that self-talk, I said, oh no, 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 we cannot, this can't, this, but I didn't know those unconscious scripts were there, that 50 was some magical, you're ugly and useless. That was what an unconscious script triggered in me. So I started working at 45 very strongly on how to love and nurture myself so I could go into 50 feeling tremendous self-love and power. So that's where it started. And I know I've been talking a while, but that was the journey. And then I started writing the book at 51 or 52, I think. And then a whole chain of events changed how I finished the book.
Interesting. Is this a good time in the story to ask you about those chain of events? We could go into whatever level of detail you want to get into or not want to get into, but um, yeah, I mean,
Okay. I can
it's
talk
quite the
about all of it. Yeah.
it's quite the journey to be doing this professionally to help other people and realize that the same kind of like self-talk was bubbling up inside of you. When you're trying to help other people, it sounds like you maybe forgot about your own oxygen mask as well.
Well, I'll say yes and no. So as soon as I would see it in them, I see that everything's a mirror and I'm the consciousness of the practice. So whatever's coming in, I was like, oh, not really sure. I'm like, wow, we got 13 ADHD cases this week, or like, there's an awful lot of borderline coming in this month. What does this say about me? Like, what is going on right now? Like, what is coming up to heal, or what is being reflected? Like when you're pregnant, you're going to get a whole bunch of pregnant women. Like things just happen that way. There's clusters of energy. So I was pretty much always aware of that the mirror was right there in front of me and I could self-correct really quickly. So I think I did a really good job taking care of myself, but it's the way I did it. It's the energy and tone behind how I did it that I did not see until my mid 40s, that I was doing it in an unbalanced way that was creating disharmony still inside of me because I was doing it with a very masculinized feminine. I was afraid of my own femininity. I was afraid of my softness. I was afraid of anyone knowing that. I was afraid of anyone thinking I needed them. So the energy that kept me safe and alive through the rough streets of Detroit and getting through 8 years of college. And, the world can be a very interesting, unsafe place for women. And I was divorced and I did have to take on a lot of masculine nature to take care and raise my son. But there's a lot of damage that was done to me. So I was watching all of this and I was watching these women who had the benefit of an incredibly devoted, giving partner, and they could not receive the love and support he was offering. And as I coached this over and over again, of course I had to ask myself, where am I struggling to receive? Am I actually open to anyone helping me? And through that process, it became obvious to people, you're very hard to give to. You seem like you've got it all handled. The statement was said, I don't even know what to do for you. You see, like, you're so competent. So this overcompetence, this overcompensation of having it all together, well, I did cry. I did need help. I do feel sad. I don't, I want someone to hold me, but if I didn't have the courage to say that, if I didn't have the courage to declare it, I was never going to get it. So I led a African safari. I led a safari in South Africa, a healing retreat, and I did not expect the healing that I would receive when I was there, the insight, the God voice that was so screaming loud that basically I knew I want to get married. And I'm like, what? I like literally had a whole conversation in the jungle, out there in the bush with God. No, I don't. Yes, you do. What are you talking about? Ah, it was horrifying. I'm like, no, but I like freedom. And I'm into like freedom, freedom, freedom. Like, and it was like, yeah, because I don't want to get my heart broken and I don't want to need anybody and I don't ever want to be that vulnerable. And no, but what was behind all that was who is ever going to want me? That's what was really there that I didn't want to admit. So I had to want myself in a way I never wanted myself before. I had to love myself. I had to demand the self-care, nurturing, adornment. I took myself to dance lessons. I took myself on dates. I bought myself new clothes. I'm like, you're going to get cashmere. You're going to get diamonds. I said, and it wasn't like I couldn't date people. I had plenty of people wanting to date me. This was not a problem. But I actually wasn't being held and contained and supported the way I needed in any of those relationships. That's why I was never married, because I never wanted to marry any of those people. So, and I'm like, oh, I've been playing a little mind game on myself, a little Jedi, I saw it like that in Africa. So I came back with a whole different way of approaching it. And I'm like, I'm not needy. I don't need it. But this is what I want. I want to actually be devoted and committed again in such a way that I've never done. And when it comes in, it'll come in. And so to my surprise, it came in the form that I wasn't expecting. And it was a shock to my system. So my best male friend, we all have the best friend, like your work buddy or this buddy. He was my friend, my business advisor, a business coach, a guy who would negotiate contracts for me for about 4 or 5 years. And then suddenly, he'd been flirting, but all the guys flirt. But then it turned into a different thing where I liked it. And I'm like, oh boy. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, you know what I'm doing. So it just turned this whole thing. And I'd never been attracted to a friend. Like, how did that happen? Like, how all of a sudden is somebody just kind of looks like, I don't know, a burrito becomes chocolate cake. You're like, oh God, why do you look like that now? Why do you smell so good? So, and he was the first man I was with in 18 years. So I'm bisexual. I've been dating women for a very long time. And after my first husband, I'm like, I think I'm done with that. I'm going to tap out. So I'd only been with women. I pretty much identified sort of as a lesbian-ish, but I don't like the label. Um, and I just never thought that would happen again. I was never attracted to men. And I was wildly attracted. So we were together for quite a few years. About 2 years or so into it, he was diagnosed with heart failure. And we were here in Florida, as a matter of fact. We were in West Palm, and he was not doing well. And I'm like, this is not asthma. Like, what is happening? I'm like, this is not okay. And so we ended up in the hospital. And when they pulled up the picture of the heart, I saw it right away. Like, he goes, what's that? He goes, is that my heart? I'm like, yeah. He goes, why is it so big like that? Yeah. Why is it so big like that? And so from heart failure, the conversation went very quickly to heart transplant list. So we went through a heart transplant and waiting on a donor heart. During that time, my father died. I couldn't even go home and deal with that because I was in Johns Hopkins in Baltimore waiting for a heart with chip. Um, he got through all of it in record time. I mean, it's did just amazing things. He was like incredible. And even his surgeons and his cardiologist said, you find him the best heart. You find him a Corvette because this guy, he's got a whole life to live. I planned on spending the rest of my life with him. And I knew when this was happened, I thought, okay, I kind of was talking to God, going, all right, I get it. You put a little something in here. I get it. But you give me 10 good years. I'm like, he waited till 60. I waited till 50. Just give us 10 years, right? It's not greedy. I don't even want to be greedy, 10 years. Well, we didn't get it. 6 months after, we went to a wedding. He was able to leave Baltimore for the first time. We went to a wedding. It was amazing. We went and bought land, and I like that. He's like this, that I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Let's move together. Let's do it. Like, let's do it. We bought a place in Houston. We went with builders. We're planning on building our dream home together on a 12-month contract, 12 months to do it. He's like, listen, in 6 months is perfect because I'll be done with my transplant team. We'll rent a place. It gives you time to deal with your house and your son and moving. I'm like, yeah, we got a year. Okay, well, then and this is it. And we're just dreaming about everything. Build your biohacking room, put your sauna in. She needs lights. She needs her stuff. She needs a space. And I was like, oh boy, he needs I don't know, a TV. I need a lot of things. I need 4 closets, right? Super fun. After that trip and us securing that, 2 weeks later, he was in ICU. I was flying up to there and he never came home and he died in my arms about 30 days later after that. So It just wasn't what I ever saw coming. I never imagined he would die. I was certain this was it. And that wasn't what happened. So 6 hours after he died in my arms on January 2nd, I was on a plane. I was back in Atlanta and just went, now what? And I didn't do anything for about 4 months, except I pulled out the book that I had written that was still called Receive, The Dance of Feminine Power. And over Easter weekend in 3 days, I went through a very deep edit. And I said, no wonder I couldn't edit this book. Because in the first draft, nowhere did I say his name. Nowhere did I talk about him. Sure, I had personal stories from my office. It was a little bit more Dr. Rimka. This was written from Stephanie, and Dr. Rimka's a part of that story. But this book represents pieces of stories the 9-year-old me had to tell, 17-year-old, the 30-year-old, the 40-year-old, the 60-year-old, fit me, the 50-year-old. And I talk about my father's death. I talk about his death. So although it's a love story for women to read, to fall in love with themselves, I had to be okay with writing the love story to myself and with Chip and in losing him. And I never anticipated that. And I feel like God just kind of dictated to me what needed to be done in the rewrite. And it's 100 times better than the first version. And I'm, you know, I don't hide his name or my father's name. So, yeah.
It's incredibly powerful. That's incredibly powerful. How asking God for 10 years, trying not to be greedy, right? 10 years, that's not too much to ask. In the
Okay.
prime of your life, the, the anger that I imagine I would feel, most people would feel like, God, you couldn't even give me 10 years. You couldn't give me 5 years. Like how did you address the anger that surely you must have felt and deserve to have felt and to maybe still feel today?
So, no, I didn't really feel that. Now, I've gotten angry at Chip a few times over this. There's some things that were a little incomplete, but as soon as it really, so there's a mantra I have, and this was the ultimate test of do I think it or not, that everything is happening in my highest and best interest, period. Whether I know it or like it. When I broke my back, herniated 3 discs, because when it couldn't walk and was in traction 3 times, that was in my best interest. I was scared. I didn't know if I'd walk or run again, but that was still one of the greatest gifts ever given to me, changed my whole life. When my father went back to prison, much as I looked like one of the greatest things that ever happened. So if you can get to the point, and I'm in there in that hospital, and I knew this is what was so solid for me. This is going to change me at the soul level, whether I'm ready or not. And if I'm not ready, it's not going to change me in the evolution moving forward the way it's supposed to. So I know that this is, no matter what is going to happen, this is what's in the best interest for me. I don't have to know how. I don't have to understand it right now. I'm not going to. If you try, you're going to make yourself crazy. So the left hemisphere masculine monkey mind is not involved. It is right hemisphere, pure spirit, pure intuition, pure soul connection. In those 30 days, I'm not great with tracking. I don't need to know the numbers of how long, because I was there. I think it was like 7 hours later, we were being moved to ICU. The next night, they put a ventilator in him. After that, he could only talk to me through squeezing my hand, blinking, and then eventually he stroked out many times, and that was gone. And I'm going to tell you, in that time, my soul and his soul fell in love even further, even deeper. So I knew he was going. I knew it. There was no fear in my system. There was no anger in my system. All I did was say, there is no room in this space except for love. And if anything else crept in, I left the room and I handled whatever needed to get handled in me to regulate that because I was not going to bring anything but love in his presence because that's what he deserved. So I didn't have that. I did not have an angry at God moment. I just turned it into what a fucking gift. What a fucking gift the whole thing was. And a few months ago, it hit me. And I was talking to Chip, and I'm like, God damn, I cannot believe the final gift you gave me was that you had to die. I never was with anybody who died before, Casey, right? I walked him home. I coached him through it. I watched his breathing pattern, the whole thing. And it was magnificent. I won't let anger or rage or resentment ever dirty that, ever. But it hit me, I'm like, I would have never written about it. I wouldn't have this book to talk about it. I don't have to like it, but this is how the story was written. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to make the best out of it. I don't understand the story. Like I'm not the one in charge of all of it. He and I found something, and what I remember or what I hold on to, I'm like, well, you know what? Chip had me till the day he died. He had the love of his life. He got he got it, and I gave him that. That's a win. So I'm good with it. So no, I don't have that. Now he and I've had some anger with him. There's been a few things I'm like, brah, you didn't do but that's good. And that's part of the journey, and that's part of the soul contract here. So that's a different thing. And he and I've worked that out. And I talk to him almost every day, I'm like, but usually like this is what happens when I think of Chip. I smile, I laugh. He's playful. He was the funniest human I've ever met. And I tell people I'm funny. I'm like, you think I'm funny? You should meet him. And like together we were ridiculous. So I'm more driven now by just pure love, laughter. And every time I ask him for advice, it's usually he's got a giggle of some sort. It's like, come on, you know better than this. So, and he'll make me laugh, and then I'll move on and I'll get it done.
It's just so profound and beautiful to think of it that way. I've never framed it in that way, that you had to die for all of this amazing stuff to happen, and it couldn't have been any other way. I've just never been able to put that in perspective. How, how do you communicate that to somebody who, unlike you, is feeling angry, is feeling like the world is against them, they're powerless, they're noticing, all the things that are happening to them, not the things that are happening for them. In the book, how are you able to convey that message to somebody who maybe does feel closed off to feeling the love or receiving in the way you write about?
Well, there's two different things here. I want to be clear. So when you're in the grief space, you're not teaching anybody anything. I'm not preaching to you about anything. Everything you're feeling is valid and everything is right. And there's no trying to change any of it. So my process and my journey is not to be anyone else's. There's no right or wrong way to grieve someone. What is grief? It's love with nowhere to fucking go. That is hard, but it is just love. And so it's really the best thing to do with someone who's in that space in the acute process is to just be with them. Don't let them be alone. Just sit next to them. You don't need to talk. I'm not trying to convince them. I'm not trying to get them out of anger. You angry? Then let's go break some shit. You want to break some stuff? You're sad, cry. You want to cry? Let's cry. I'll hold you. Do you need a Kleenex? I mean, you really don't want to fix any of it because nothing is broken about it. Now, in the book, because the book isn't really a grief recovery book, it's not what it is. It's just part of it's a love story, and it really is about a love story of yourself and your own parts, your own feminine, your own masculine. And I just talk about that basically I'm just reflecting back to the reader as a mirror to who you already are. And let me just reflect something back to you. Do with that what you want. But when you look at a mirror, you automatically self-correct. I could put lipstick on without a mirror, but if you give me a mirror, I will just automatically make it better without having to think about it. So that's what goes on inside the book. So the book is a gentle, poetic journey. So I use a lot of poetry and imagery, and music and water and fire imagery, things that people connect to and understand the way I see the masculine and the feminine within myself and within external relationships as well, to just gently connect with the reader. And the first draft did not have any action steps. And some women asked me, I know you're right, but what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, oh, okay. So then I added something starting in chapter 6 called Soulful Moments, suggestions that the reader. So I give a tremendous amount of the things I have done for myself, the things I have done with my patients over 30 years, different exercises, different ideas. They're not requirements, they're not homework, they're just offerings. If any of these resonate with you, you can try them. If you're struggling with vulnerability, try this. If you're struggling with surrender, try this. If you're struggling, it's just the end of every chapter, things that they can do. So I offer it in such a way of kind of a poetic story journey of kind of the macro to the micro, right? The cosmos, the larger culture of how men and women interact with each other, and then offer those things at the end. So there's no preaching and teaching in this book. It is not that type of thing. It's a self-discovery. Many people have said it reads more like a journal, but it's not. And a lot of women have told me, they go, what we really need? We need like a book club with this. Like it's a very easy read. It's like 120 pages or something like that. And I designed it to be aesthetically pretty. I wanted it to look like there was space on the page and you could breathe. I want the nervous system to breathe. So ultimately, I don't have to teach much of anything if I can make someone's nervous system feel safe. As soon as that happens, a woman's body naturally opens up because she is born to receive. That is our primary design. We are built for it. We are the receivers and the men are the givers. That's where we've got it inverted. Women think, but I'm a giver. No, honey, you're a martyr. He's the giver. You're the receptacle. Why are you not letting him give to you? So with Chip, when people were surprised, you think I ever opened a door? I didn't open a single door. I didn't carry a bag. He did all of that. And I will wait. That's your job. And I will receive it. And I will say thank you. Right? So many women have stopped allowing men to do very simple things for them. I'm like, no, I'm not going to disempower him. I'm not going to castrate him. You're going to buy the tickets, buy the tickets, make the plans. I loved it when he would order for me. He knew exactly what I wanted. He's like, you want this or this, something like that. He's okay. She's going to start with a gin and tonic, blah, blah, blah. But you want that? She want the oysters. He goes, you want the filet or that? She's going to do the filet and this and make sure you bring a red wine. She's probably going to want, she'd be like, you got gluten-free dessert? Because she's going to want it. So be on top of it. And I'm like, thank you, honey. I'm glad I don't have to think about it, you know? And little things like that make all the difference. So I start telling them, just let him open the doors for you. Let him make the plan. Let him give to you. And it's shocking suddenly how men will feel seen and appreciated by doing what they're. I'm like, he's the giver. He's the obedient one. This is, you've gotten it all twisted because in every other pack, every other mammal pack where there are like the wolves on Earth, every single one is designed exactly the same. Humans are the only ones who screwed it up. There's always an alpha male and an alpha female. They work together in great cooperation and harmony. But the alpha female is making the decisions on are they hunting or going or leaving. The male always looks to her. Should we do it? And she goes, yeah, we're going to go now. And he goes, okay, I got it. And he gets up, he goes in front, and he enforces and makes the whole thing happen. No different than in a fantastic marriage. Let's say daddy comes home, mom's home with the three kids, and she comes up, you can see something in her eyes. He knows she's mad. And she goes, that guy across the street, da da da, grabbed Johnny or did. Daddy doesn't give a damn and doesn't need the story. If she says that guy, he's like, I'm on it. He doesn't need to know why. It's like, who do we hate? Him. And like a pit bull, he does his job. What did you do? What did you do to, like he will handle it. That it's a very different culture that we've created. If you look at the way old school marriages were that lasted forever, the woman's usually making all the decisions and he is enforcing her decisions. She decides where the kids go to school, she decides the appointments, she decides how the money is spent on healthcare, she decides how the money is spent on the food. She's deciding all of it. He's enforcing all of it because he trusts her. He's deeply connected and knows and respects her. She knows what she's doing. If my wife don't like it, I don't like it. I've heard men say this because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? That's an old saying, like because she runs the tone, and in places where that isn't the situation, it gets all upside down and messed up. But every pack, every wild pack, and I didn't know that's how it was. And let's say the betas and the alpha female, keeps all the other with the betas and the other hierarchy in order, and she's physically protecting him all the time. Because if betas males rise up, she will put them in check in her pack first. They feel like, hey, what are you doing? Don't you come after him. Then eventually, if they do attack, he physically either beats them or they're going to kill him. And then they'll fight. But actually, the alpha female decides who the next alpha male is. She will subdue him. And through her subduing and causing submission, she literally, they've measured it. The military's done all these measurements on it. She changes his neurochemistry, all of his dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, oxytocin, all of that changes his cortisol, and it makes him have the biology of the alpha. It is chosen by the alpha female, actually. We've not been taught any of this, right? So we're ignoring that. And so women think letting a man give makes her weak. No, honey, that's your greatest strength.
Fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. Do you get pushback on those ideas in 2026 when people talk about like gender roles and fail to appreciate these primal, even just on a hormonal level, like how we're set up and how we've been set up? Do you get pushback on this?
So when you explain it, I mean, the science is black and white. So you usually know, they're like, I didn't know that. I'm like, I know, I didn't either. And isn't that mind blowing? So I just tell them, no, I was manipulated and conned to you guys. Now, that doesn't mean women aren't supposed to vote, doesn't mean women shouldn't own things. Like the way it was at one point that I couldn't have a credit card. Okay, that was a little too much, right? But the idea, we took it so extreme that women look down on staying home and raising children. Is it, well, I don't work. I'm like, what? Yeah, you do. Right. And so we've created shame and opposite. We've taken it so the feminist modern movement is so removed from what it really from the spirit of what people like me would think like, oh my God, what a con. Because all they were really trying to do is get two incomes, right? Break up marriages, get two incomes, get women working. So women, I'm not saying, listen, I talk about it in the book. Like I'm a one that works, but you can't ignore that the world is set up on a masculine testosterone based cycle, a 24-hour cycle. Calendars are masculine testosterone. Scheduling appointments is masculine testosterone. None of this is based on the feminine. Our bodies are not built for the way we work and the way we expect things. That's not how I function. I want to be intuitive, be all over the place. I'm whole. I'm a tempest storm. Now that's the feminine energy. I will just wreck it, everything like a tornado, if I don't have some masculine containment. I have my own masculine containing me, but in a relationship, I love to be contained because not being contained makes you feel like a neurotic lunatic. And that's how many women are feeling. And they're getting diagnosed with mental illnesses. And it's just a lack of containment, but they don't know that. because they've been so trained that that makes them weak, or they don't even know what the word means. They've heard dominance and submission. And so I wanted to flip the script on those words. I'm like, no, we don't like that word submission. I get what they're trying to say. We don't like it. So I went with a few different words in the book. So when people read the book, I haven't had any pushback. Like if I have to have conversations about, I'm like, it's fine. And I'm okay if people want to disagree with me. Like, you don't have to agree with me. This is my experience. This is what came to me through spirit. If it's not, doesn't resonate with you, that's okay.
Okay, great answer. I love that. I want to ask you from two different perspectives this next question. Feedback that you've received about the book. You've already told us, what some people are saying, but a meaningful piece of feedback that you got from somebody who you previously didn't know, and also a meaningful piece of feedback that you got from somebody who knows you extremely well.
Hmm. Okay, meaningful people. I don't know if I have any from somebody I didn't know. I mean, most of it, well, I would say this. What I've been surprised by the I don't know, and even have been the way men have responded. So women will tell me what their husbands are saying. So they're like, I've been reading it to my husband. And like this one guy actually ended up grabbing the phone, got on the phone with me. And he goes, I just want you to know, like, just she read this part. He goes, I think I felt seen by my wife more for who I really am in the first time in 20 years in our marriage. Because I can't believe you wrote it that way. Because that's exactly what I've been trying to explain, but you explained it better. And I'm like, really? So I've been really, my brother is absolutely insane about this book. He texts me a quote every single day, wants me to turn it into like a daily motivational like calendar. He's, you need to turn this into something every single day. And so he's been sending me just so sweet. And my brother and I are not close. And this book has suddenly made us connected. And his whole reaction to it, and it was honestly, I'll cry again. It was so sweet. When I walked into his house, I was home visiting in Detroit and had to stop by my mom on the way to the airport. So let me stop by Roger's house. And he was reading the book as I walked in. And of course, my brother is known to be always in his underwear. I'm like, Raj, please, I'm coming upstairs. Please don't let me see you. Put some clothes on. And I'm like, are you actually reading my book? He goes, yeah. He goes, I gave it to him for Christmas autograph, right? And he goes, I'm like, I didn't think you'd read it. He's like, it's so good. He's telling me this is so good. He goes, and then what first thing he said, because I talked about it in the book, he goes, Daddy would have been really proud. And I was like, my dad was a very good writer. So I really wanted it published before he died. And I had to really let that go because I was going to rush it. I felt it. I'm like, it's just not ready. I'm like, she's not ready. And I didn't know why. I had no idea the chip thing would happen. And that's why I said, no wonder I wasn't supposed to finish it. This was supposed to go in the book. Like, that was the one thing I thought I was going to regret. Like, I didn't get it published to make my dad proud. And then I really had to just say, he is so proud of me. Like, this is ridiculous. That was a little wounded girl inside of me driving that. And I had to have the mature Stephanie come on board to say, you can't rush this. She wasn't ready to be birthed yet, is what it was. So it's been the men, I would say. My friends who read the book, that they read the first version, the second version, and some of them, my best friends since I was 6 years old. And um, what she said that surprised me, like more, she was the one who was like, you need to put some personal stories in. And it kind of helped me in the first draft of like, well, you could talk about, I was like, what about this, Naomi? And I was kind of asking her things. Kind of threw that all out the window after he died and I changed everything. But she was like, Stephanie, this is and she's a brilliant, master's degree educator and brilliant, has helped multiple people write books for their PhDs and things like that. Um, And she goes, this is one of the best books I've ever read in my entire life. She's like, this is bell hooks. This is Eat, Pray, Love. This is incredible. She's what you've been able to do something to speak to everything without offending anyone. And and another guy, what he said, were you able to put so much in so little? I said, I think because I tried to infuse so much love in every word, in every space, in every choice of everything I did. And that same feeling that I had in that hospital with him is what I tried to infuse, even in between the spaces, to let that breathe into you. And the feedback I've gotten is people are feeling it. They're like, I don't know how I feel this much. Like people, men are reading it and they start crying. They're like, holy shit. They're like, what is in this book? And it's not that it's the content. I think it's the frequency. Somehow I was able to get in there.
Well, that is absolutely amazing. I think the way you said, yeah, having so much in so little is a perfect description of this conversation. It's just, I really appreciate your vulnerability, your willingness to talk about this, the exploration that you had to do. I love the idea of loving yourself first, treating yourself, doing all that first, so that then you can have the opportunity for the relationship, the heartache you must have felt going through what you had to go through, and then come out the other side without feeling that anger and wanting to share and wanting to just spread love. It's incredible. I don't know what I was exactly expecting from this conversation. Thought maybe we talk about the carnivore diet a little bit here or there, and
Yeah, we can talk about carnivore and peptides another day, Casey. I'm
another day.
super into that. I love that stuff. But I'm letting myself, I'm letting the little girl and this sultry, sexy 53-year-old goddess play a whole lot more. I used to hide her away. I didn't wear jewelry. I didn't wear beautiful things. I wore scrubs every day. And I said, there's no reason I can't be sexy and smart.
Love it. I love it. That we'll save the other stuff for another day. This has been absolutely incredible. One of my favorite episodes ever, for sure, Stephanie. And another thing that stands out to me is you say this book was written by Stephanie, not Dr. Rimka, and that certainly has shown for us. So thank you so very much for all of your amazing work, and thank you for coming on our show today to chat about it. Where would you like people to go to find you, to connect with you and your work, and where do you want people to go to find your book?
Well, I'll make sure we have in the description a special link for you guys for some special gifts to the listeners of your podcast. But the book sits on a website called Your Soul Beautiful, YOURSOUL beautiful.com. And then you can see a little bit about the journey. And in that process of healing, I pretty much took salt baths every day and lit hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of candles. And in that process, I therefore decided to craft and create my own scented candles. That was part of the healing journey. So now I'm selling those with the candles and the scents. I worked with a custom scent maker. She's handcrafting all of them for me. She's a local military woman, a vet in Atlanta, and she custom makes these for me, these 3 signature scents that are mine that I used in the healing process, the aromatherapy. So they're written into as rituals in the book. So yoursoulbeautiful.com has all that information. And if you're interested in the clinical stuff, it'll take you over to that part of my life as well.
Excellent. We'll keep that all linked up in the show notes. And yeah, this has been an incredible conversation. I just have really appreciated getting to know you on such a deep level. And again, to be so vulnerable with all of this and share this message and get out there, I think is absolutely incredible. So Dr. Stephanie Rimka, thank you so very much for everything you do. And thank you for taking the time out of your very busy life to be on our show today. We really appreciate you.
My great pleasure. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you so much. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.